You have $18 left in your bank account. You know you have bills coming. And somehow, the only thing your brain can think about is getting an iced coffee. Not because you're thirsty, because you're exhausted, you're alone in your apartment, and that $7 drink feels like the only thing today that's actually for you. Be honest. You've been there. This video is about that exact moment, that pull, that almost magnetic urge to spend money you don't have just to feel something good for 5 minutes. We're going to talk about why that happens, what's actually driving it, and what you can do about it that doesn't involve white-knuckling your way through every bad day. I've spent a long time looking at the overlap between emotional exhaustion and financial self-destruction, and what I found is genuinely uncomfortable. So stick with me, because the last piece of this is the one most people never connect, and it's probably the most important thing you'll hear today. Let's start with what's actually going on. Doom spending is a type of emotional spending, using purchases to self-medicate feelings like anxiety, boredom, loneliness, or hopelessness. And the scale of it right now is staggering. Credit card debt in the U.S. hit $1.21 trillion at the end of 2025, and this behavior is particularly prevalent among millennials and Gen Z, with 38% of adults under 35 admitting to making purchases they couldn't afford specifically because they felt pessimistic about the future. That's not a money problem. That's an emotional problem wearing a money problem's clothes. And here's the thing that makes this so hard to escape. Every step of the shopping process triggers dopamine: browsing, deciding, purchasing, and receiving. This creates a powerful neurological loop that reinforces spending behavior regardless of whether you actually need the items. So, when you're already depleted, already running on empty, your brain isn't looking for a financial plan. It's looking for relief. And a one-click checkout is a lot faster than a therapy session. A card swipe, a package delivery, or even just putting items into a cart can trigger the release of dopamine in the brain. That tiny chemical surge is what makes retail therapy feel comforting in the moment. The key word there is in the moment, because the moment always ends. So that's the mechanism. But here's what I really want you to understand: why you're so vulnerable to it in the first place. More than 6 in 10 U.S. adults report feeling lonely, while half or more say they feel isolated, left out, or lacking companionship often or some of the time. Half. That's not a niche problem. That's most of the people you walk past every day quietly running on empty. According to a 2025 Meta-Human Insights report, 74% of Gen Z globally report feeling regularly lonely. Even when surrounded by digital social circles, you can have 800 followers and still feel like nobody actually knows you. And that gap between connection that looks real and connection that feels real is exactly where doom spending lives. When you're lonely and burnt out, your capacity for long-term thinking basically collapses. You stop caring about next month's rent in the same way you care about right now feeling slightly less terrible. Research shows that making purchase decisions can reduce residual sadness by restoring a perceived sense of agency, particularly when individuals feel powerless in other areas of their life. Read that again. It's not that you're bad with money, it's that spending feels like control when everything else feels out of your hands. That's not weakness. That's human psychology doing exactly what it was built to do. But here's where it turns on you. Emotional spending creates an unhealthy cycle. Stress leads to shopping, which creates financial pressure, which then increases stress. That loop becomes unhealthy for both your bank account and your emotions. You spend to feel better. You feel worse because you spent. So you spend again to fix the feeling that spending caused. And the whole time, the original problem, the loneliness, the exhaustion, the burnout, never actually got touched. While retail therapy delivers immediate emotional relief, the mood elevation is typically short-lived and fails to address the root causes of stress, anxiety, or depression. That $30 food delivery order didn't fix the fact that you haven't had a real conversation with someone in 3 days. The new thing you bought at midnight didn't fix the fact that you're grinding through a life that doesn't feel like yours yet. It just bought you maybe 2 hours of feeling okay before the receipt hit your email and the anxiety came back. Now here's the part I promised you at the start, the thing most people miss. The loneliness itself has a price tag, and it's much bigger than your DoorDash history. The WHO estimates that 1 in 6 people worldwide is affected by loneliness. Gen Z is the loneliest generation, ahead of millennials and boomers, and loneliness raises the risk of early death by 26%. We're not just talking about feeling sad on a Friday night. According to the WHO's June 2025 report, loneliness is associated with around 100 deaths per hour globally. Stress-related absenteeism from work alone costs U.S. employers an estimated $154 billion annually. The emotional tax of feeling disconnected doesn't stay emotional. It bleeds into your health, your productivity, your focus, your ability to make clear decisions, including financial ones. Studies report excess costs linked to loneliness and social isolation ranging from $2 billion to $25.2 billion per year. Loneliness is not a soft problem, it is a structural one, and it is costing people real money in ways they never trace back to the source. And capitalism knows this. Modern digital marketing has mastered the art of creating perceived needs where none exist. Today's sophisticated techniques operate beneath conscious awareness, exploiting psychological vulnerabilities that trigger spending behavior. Every app, every algorithm, every just for you recommendation is built around one core insight. A lonely, tired person is an easy sell. The loneliness economy is booming, powered by people who crave connection, but often find it easier to buy it than build it. From friendship apps to emotional wellness subscriptions, loneliness has quietly become both a crisis and a market. They are not trying to fix your loneliness. They are trying to monetize it. So what do you actually do? Because I'm not going to sit here and tell you to just be more mindful and call it advice. The first real shift is recognizing what you're actually hungry for. The next time you feel that pull, the urge to open an app, order food you don't need, add something to a cart at 11 p.m., pause for 10 seconds and ask yourself, what am I actually trying to feel right now? Not what do I want to buy? What do I want to feel? Most of the time, the answer is something like relief or warmth or a sense that today wasn't a complete waste. And once you name that, you have options. Experts recommend balancing occasional retail therapy with other coping mechanisms like social connection, physical activity, or mindfulness practices that address underlying emotional needs without the price tag. That's not a lecture. That's just knowing what game you're playing before you make a move. The second shift is building what I'd call a dopamine menu. Instead of letting the impulse to shop take over, the idea is to create your own list of alternatives that deliver the same feel-good chemicals without the financial hangover. Because dopamine is more about anticipation than it is about pleasure. A walk, a specific playlist, texting someone you haven't talked to in a while, cooking something from scratch. These aren't lesser substitutes. They're actually more effective at addressing the real need because they involve your body, your attention, or another human being. The iced coffee gives you dopamine for 20 minutes. A real conversation can shift your entire day. The third shift is the hardest one, and it's this. You have to stop treating financial stress and emotional stress like they're separate problems. A survey found that 67% of Americans engage in retail therapy involving snacks and treats to cheer themselves up, spending roughly $526 per year on that alone, and 49% purchase takeout to comfort themselves at an approximate cost of $598 annually. That's over $1,000 a year in comfort spending for a lot of people who feel like they can't afford to save anything. The money isn't disappearing into nothing. It's going directly toward managing feelings that were never given another outlet. When you start treating your emotional health as a financial decision, not in a cold, clinical way, but in a real, honest way, the math starts to look different. The $7 coffee isn't just $7. It's $7 plus the $14 you'll spend tomorrow for the same reason, plus the $30 delivery order on Thursday when the week gets hard again. That's not judgment. That's just the actual number. If any part of this hit close to home, drop it in the comments. I want to know what your version of the iced coffee moment looks like because I guarantee you're not alone in it. And if you want to go deeper on the psychology of why we self-sabotage financially when we're emotionally depleted, I made a video specifically on that. It's worth watching right after this one. Here's what changed from the beginning of this video to right now. You came in thinking this was about bad spending habits, but it's really about what happens to your decision-making when you're running on empty and no one taught you what to do with that. The doom spending is a symptom. The loneliness, the exhaustion, The feeling that you deserve at least this one small thing, that's the actual story. You do deserve good things. The goal is just to stop paying for them twice.